Today, I am super, super excited that this podcast episode exists. For those that have been following my work on FromTheRumbleSeat.com, you know that I've been writing about Survivor for the past 3 months because current Georgia Tech student Carson Garrett, he's an aerospace engineering student, interns at NASA, all those good things that you'd imagine any Georgia Tech aerospace engineer would do. He was on the most recently airing season of Survivor. It was the 44th season of the show so far. It filmed way back in June of last year when Carson was just 20. He's 21 now. And lucky enough, CBS let me have a chance to talk with him and just pick his brain a little bit about the game, how it went down, and what the experience meant to him. I've always wanted to talk to someone who has played on the show. I haven't been able to until today. And so it was a big honor for me to be able to get time with Carson. And I thank everybody that was involved in making that happen. I don't know if I'll write about Survivor next season or not. Maybe if there's another Georgia Tech student, I absolutely will. But this kid's a really cool kid, as any Georgia Tech student is. I really hope you enjoy this interview here. If you want to go back and read my work, I have episode recaps, and maybe you can go back and see some things that I may have hinted at that ended up right or ended up wrong based on how the finale went down. I'm actually recording this intro before I watch the finale tonight, so I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really curious. The rest of this interview will be based off the finale, so I hope you enjoy. It was a good time, I assume, because why would you not have a good time around Carson, as we all saw on the islands of Fiji? And with that, let's talk to Carson. I've interviewed some people on this podcast, but I am possibly the most excited to welcome Carson Garrett to Scions of the Southland. Not only is he a current student at Georgia Tech, just made the Final Four in Survivor, which is a very rare feat for any human being on this planet. So to start, I want to do the generic tech intro. Give me your name, give me your year, and give me your major.
Yes, I am Carson Garrett. I am going into my 4th year at Georgia Tech, and my major is aerospace engineering.
Nice. I graduated about a year ago, so we overlapped for 2-3 years, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I was in the business school though, so my world never touches aerospace at any point. But
I wish they were more interrelated. Like, I feel like there's a lot of like marketing and stuff that would be really cool. But yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Let's start talking about the game. So y'all filmed last June, correct?
Yes, so long ago. Oh my gosh.
So almost a year. Okay, so and you know about everything that happens on the. I mean, as much as you can know, literally playing the game, and now you've watched the game. But I've always wondered, when you get back, can you say can you even tell your family anything? Like, are you so held down that it's just like you can only talk? Can you at least talk to other players? Like, could you, Carolyn and Jam, at least be like, oh, that was funny, or are you just on complete lockdown until episodes start?
So, I didn't tell my family or anybody anything, and I kind of kept it in my own head, and it makes it a lot more fun. My family found out last night that I lost, but I kind of liked the idea that they didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I kind of liked the idea that they thought I had $1 million in my pocket. It gave me more opportunity to be like, I'm going to Greece next week.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think it's a lot of compartmentalizing, and you don't want to ruin the story. So, like, for me, I kept it to myself. So I also am one of those people, you read the book before you watch the movie, and I didn't want to spoil them. I wanted them to live it through my eyes throughout the story. And so I found it way more fun for them to have to find out through the episodes the night of. They were always on the edge of their seat, standing beside me, crying, screaming. It was so fun.
That's incredible. Would you give them little tidbits they didn't show during the episodes to at least fill in some gaps, or was it just pure you just watched the show until after?
I told my family, I said, because they're all under the same NDA I am, but I said, so technically I could have told them, but I didn't want to. I said, you can ask me one question about the game, but it can't have anything to do with my placement. And so the only person who remembered to ask me, which is so funny, is my mom, and she asked me, did you find an idol? And I said yes. So she was the only one that knew something, but that was all she knew. And so she went into the game not even knowing what to expect, and it was so fun for them to watch. I think they lived through my eyes, and that's what I wanted, because it was really such an emotional and incredible experience for me. So
yeah. That's insane. I've been watching this show since I was 5, I think 4 or 5, so around Survivor All-Stars-ish.
Oh, I love that
era. I think I know a decent amount about the game, but of course I've never played, so I'm missing a lot of it.
Your articles You definitely know what's going on.
All right, well, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. The edit's been good. In that case. But between like all the prep work you did and all the training you did, was there something about the game or yourself that you really could only find out once you got there?
That's a great question. Yes. Whenever do you practice lying or manipulating in person? Like that's not something people do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was going in with intention, I'm going to lie and manipulate everyone.
Yeah.
However, when you get there, you're like, okay, well, am I a good liar? I don't know. And so that's something I never expected to have. I didn't know how I would do, and I ended up being great at it. I don't know if that's a good skill to be proud of, but I was really good at it. So I think that like that was something I didn't know how I was going to do, and I surprised myself a lot. Like some people, like I think that a lot of people go through that. They're like, well, I'm just going to see how it happens. That's something you really don't practice in person. Like, how am I going to manipulate you today? Like, no one does. That's messed up.
That'd be worrying. Yeah, that'd be worrying. But yeah, it's such a weird place in the game where it's just like, freedom to lie.
You're like, okay, am I good at this? Are they lying to me? I have no idea. It's crazy.
Yeah. So paranoid. Oh boy. Let's go to Final Five. Yes. In that moment, after once you know you got Final Five and you are in it and you've made the finale on the island, did you think you had the best shot at winning at that point?
Yes, I did. I think everyone had been saying like, you're going to win, you're going to win, you're going to win. Carolyn had been telling me that since the beginning of the merge. I think Jam Jam didn't see me as big of a threat, but that was because we were working so closely, and it was part of my game to make him not as feel like I was running it and letting him believe that he was in the front runner, but really I was the one, weaving that information between in and out of alliances. So I think my relationships with each and every one of the jurors was very strong, and I could have convinced them at the end to that my game was very intentional. A lot of my game was like building those relationships, making people feel so connected with me that I would never betray them. And so I think that like I would have pulled the win out at the end, and I knew I had to get through, and it was going to be really difficult because my game had become so present and everyone could see like, okay, Carson is going to win. And so it was scary too. It's like I was on the edge of my seat, and I was proud of how it turned out too, in the sense of like, I went out with that in in one of the coolest ways where someone had to make themselves vulnerable to take me out. And even like the idea that like, in order for her to even have a chance, she needed to, like take me out as the front runner. So it was, I guess, an honor as well. But yeah, crazy.
Man, that is that's hard. Man. If I got there one day, I would have such a hard time convincing myself I think I got there. Like, it had to be so clear that I'm like, I know. Was there anyone of the four between Heidi, Lauren, Carolyn, Jam Jam that you were like, at all costs do not want to sit next to this person if I get to Final Three?
No, I think I could have beat any of them, and maybe I think it's hard to see that from like the audience perspective, because a lot of my game is social relationships, and a lot of my social relations were as seen on TV as it was with like Carolyn and Jam Jam, who I was very close to. But a lot of the reason I was able to get myself to the position I was because of the bonds I built with people, from whether it was from the members of Grad 2 who all trusted me a lot. They were I got every single information that I could from every single one of the Grad 2 at all times. It was basically just a resource I could pull from and then maneuver how I needed to propel myself. Even Soka, Danny was telling me all their secrets. I had a close relationship with Franny, and Matt. So like I think, and that's why at the Final Five, even Final Six, it was very present that there were so many people that had built those relationships with me, and a lot of their reasons that they weren't in the game was because of me. And I would think I would have been able to own that at the Final Three.
Man, if I were there. That's insane. I guess I have time for one more question apparently. So let me ask about your game as a whole, which is one I think was just the theory that I was running with. Was in this era, in the newer era, people have to swing for the fences more and more and more because there's 13 fewer days. There's more idols and stuff going on. I mean, you had your Chaos Carson side, which I think was necessary in this kind of era. But at the same time, you pulled in that more reserved strategy pretty early. Was there a moment where you realized, oh, this is actually working and this can get me somewhere? And then were there any moments where you were heavily considered maybe just stopping that strategy and playing a more front-facing game?
I think I realized that that it was working for me when I got to Ret 2, the Orange Tribe, and I was like, okay, how am I going to get myself in the middle of this tribe? Because I was in the middle of the last tribe, and now I'm at a new tribe. And so when I was able to successfully maneuver myself in the middle of Lauren and Brandon versus Kane and Matthew, I realized, okay, maybe I am better than I thought I was at this. And from then on out, I use that to my advantage, and like in splitting up Ratu and Soka, and even Carolyn and Jandrum at points. And so I never plan to change that. Like I remember so many times where I was like, okay, this is working for me, and everyone that left the game was always very close with me, and they like and so I knew that I was going to be able to explain that pretty well if I ever made it to a final tribal, specifically with the idea that, like, you know, a lot of my game was making you feel like the person that you liked out there was like was the person that you wanted to see. So if someone wanted me to be their little kid, I was going to be their little kid. If someone wanted me their strategist in I don't know, a strategist with them, I would. If someone just wanted me to be an emotional listening ear, I would be that. And so I was able to morph myself to fulfill those roles that people saw me in, and that made me a lot closer with people than they expected, and I never deviated from that strategy. And I think had I gone and played a more up in front game, like someone like Danny, I would have been taken out, because those people are seen as huge threats, even if, and people who are able to like lay more in the dark and control where the votes are going, I think are seen as way more influential at the end.
So we have to cut off the interview right there. That was actually the last question I managed to ask. But we had a special guest. I'm not going to reveal who it is on this podcast episode. But if you look to Twitter, or actually if you look to our website, we're going to post the video portion of what happens after this. It's going to be about 4 or 5 minutes long. And then maybe we'll get some more Carson content in the future. Who knows? I mean, he's in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta. So maybe we'll get something together. We'll find out some point later on after he gets back home. And enjoy some downtime after this crazy week that the Survivor finale brings. So thanks for listening. I hope that was insightful for all of you that care about Survivor, or maybe don't know what Survivor is like, and you get some firsthand experience of, or firsthand knowledge of what it's like to go out there, what it's like to come back from it, and all that kind of stuff. It's a fascinating social experiment that Jeff Probst and his team have been putting on, and Mark Burnett for the last 22 years. So one of my favorite things in the world is this show, and I'm glad we all got to have a shot to experience it. My finale recap is up on the website as well. You can go find that there on FromTheRumbleSeat.com. As I mentioned before in the intro, who knows if I'll be covering Survivor after this, so we'll see how it goes. I'll certainly be watching Survivor, so all of you feel more than welcome to message me on Instagram, Twitter, or whatever about the show in the future seasons. So with that, thanks for listening. Go Jackets.